We still Hustle Daily. What's going on, Hustle Nation? Welcome back to another video. It's your boy Big Play Ray, and we got a story time for y'all. And this is how she ruined her own life, I guess. We about to check it out. Make sure y'all smash that like button for your boy. I appreciate y'all, man. I love y'all for y'all support. Y'all don't know how much y'all mean to me, man. Y'all continuing to rock with me, man. I really do appreciate y'all, and I really love you. If ain't nobody else told you they love you, I'm gonna tell you right in your face right now, I love you, and I appreciate you. Thank you. Make sure y'all follow me on Instagram. Let's get it.
Without further ado, this is part one. This is part one of the day I ruined my life. And the day I ruined my life is has no reflection of where I am now. Now I'm happily engaged, planning my beautiful wedding.
That's
and
good.
Living my life to the fullest.
Amen.
But this is the story. So imagine this. It's May 15th, 2021. You go up to your family home in Georgia to spend some time with your parents because I wanted to see my parents, right? So this is me. I go up to see my parents in Georgia, and they're having their first Facebook Live for their business. And I go up there and I offer to help. So I recently did Ancestry DNA, and I didn't tell any of my family that I was doing it, but I did it and I came out with the results. Results say that I am 98% African, and that was a shock, you know, to some, but to me, I was excited because I was just like, oh my gosh, I can trace my DNA to a certain part of West Africa. So that's really incredible to me. My grandma on my mom's side is the family historian, and she wanted to see my ancestry. So I let her see it on my phone, on the app. I let her see it. Grandma's looking through my ancestry, and I'm busy, you know, preparing for the live. That's that night. It's me, my grandma, and my dad in the living room at this time. And my grandma goes, "Who is so-and-so?" We're gonna call him Curtis, right? So my grandma says, "Who is Curtis?" And I say, "Oh, that's my cousin on my dad's side, because I have a cousin on my dad's side named Curtis." My dad turns around from his computer and he looks at me and says, "That's not your cousin. Your cousin's last name is this, but not that." So I say, I don't know. It says father's side, so that's just, oh, I thought it was my cousin. Fast forward 20 minutes, my mom gets home and I say, "Hey mom, who's Curtis?" And she says, "Oh, I don't know why." And I said, "Because Ancestry DNA is matching him to me some way, somehow." She says, "Oh, I don't know. It must be a mistake." And I say, "But mom, Dana don't make mistakes. And if you black, you know who Dana is." It says, "Well, it must be a mistake." I said, "The same people that are connected."
Who is Dana? Is that your grandma or some shit? I don't know.
Me to your side of the family is connecting me to some random guy. Come on.
My stupid ass. Dana's DNA. What the fuck wrong with me?
Being so oblivious, that just flew right over my head. So I didn't know for real. That night, I'm helping my dad and my mom with their Facebook Live, and my dad's demeanor changes like complete 180. Once the live ends, my mom just sinks her head into her arms, and I say, "What's wrong?" And she says, "I'm so stressed." And I said, "Why? It's over. You did it." She says, "No, it's just beginning." Part two of how I ruined my life. So the energy is super strange in the house to the point where I'm growing uncomfortable. So I look at them and I'm just like, all right, y'all. And mind you, my dad's energy took a 180. So he's like now in a really pissy mood. And so I was just like, all right, y'all, like I'll catch y'all later. So I get home to my apartment in Florida and I'm just chilling, and I get a text message from my dad saying, "I want to go fishing tomorrow." So we're just like, okay, cool. We haven't been fishing in a while. So I was just like, all right. So I went ahead and I got ready for the next morning. So the next morning we meet up at the dock where I meet up with my sister, my little brother, and my dad. And so we're all just casting our lines. And the thing about me, when I go fishing, I bring the drinks, okay? I bring the drinks, the music, and the vibes. That's what I bring. But somebody always has an extra poll, so I went ahead and I cast a line. So all of us are just casting our lines and we're chilling, listening to music and all that, shooting the shit. And then my dad says, "So I'm divorcing your mom." So we're like, okay, like, all right, what's going on? My dad says, well, we have irreconcilable differences, and so we've decided to split. So I knew they struggled a little bit in their marriage. So I was just like, all right, I mean, if that's what you're going to do, then that's what you're going to do. My dad looks at my older sister and I and says, but you two will always be my daughters. That's strange coming from my dad, who I know is my dad. Like, I've never had any inkling that he wasn't my dad. That's a strange thing to say. We already knew that my older sister and him were not biologically related, but he's been in her life since she was a baby, so that's her dad. But why are you saying that? Why are you including me in this speech? That's weird. So I'm like, all right. So we finish our fishing day and we go back up to Georgia to drop off my dad and my little brother. And when I get there, my mom is there talking to my grandma. So I'm like, hey, mom, like, how's it going? Da, da, da. My mom, she's not looking at me. She won't talk to me. I'm just like, hello, like, you're ignoring me. So I'm in her kitchen and I'm just.
Mama mad at you. You done uncovered something that, boy, mama pissed off.
Just like, so, hello? Hey, I'm here. I know I'm not invisible. He's still ignoring me. I say, Mom, what's wrong? And she's literally looking at the ground and she's just like, nothing. This goes on for a few minutes. And so I'm looking at my grandma and I'm looking at my dad and the energy is just so off. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go. So I leave and I call up my friend Dawu and I say, hey, let's go meet at a bar. Let's go have a few drinks. He says, okay. I said, and also, I want to talk to you about something because something really weird is going on in my family. He says, bet. I'll meet you in 30 minutes. So I meet Dawu at the bar and I pull out my phone to show him what's going on because ever since I pulled out ancestor DNA and showed my family, everything's been so weird. So I pull out my phone and I show it to him. And from there, shit starts to get real. And so when I show it to him, he looks at my phone, he waves over to the bartender and he says, hey, can we have 2 double shots of Patron, please? And from there, shit got real. Part 3 of how I ruined my life. Bartender comes over with our double shots of Patron and we knock those back. I am a lightweight, so I normally do mixed drinks, but I guess that's not what we went there for. So I take my shot back and I'm just like, okay, let's talk. Literally, as my friend is setting down the shot glass, he waves over to the bartender and says, hey, 2 more, please. These are double shot of Patron. Double shots. I look at him and I say, Dawu, after we take this shot, can we please talk about this? And he says, yeah, of course. The bartender comes over with the next double shot of Patron and I knock it back. And I look at Dawu and I say, okay, let's talk about this. He looks at me, looks at my phone, looks at me again and says, you need to talk to your mother. I was like, dude, she's not talking to me. What is going on? Please. He just keeps repeating, you need to talk to your mother. I'm still so oblivious to everything, so I'm getting annoyed. I leave the bar and I go home to my apartment to pack because I was staying the night at a friend's house. I go home and I pack my spend the night bag and I call my sister, Asha. I'm on the phone with her and she wants to talk about like my dad wanting to get divorced from my mom. And I'm just like, yeah, it's the weirdest thing. Like all of a sudden he wants to get divorced and all of a sudden everybody's acting weird. And that's ever since I brought up this ancestry thing. I'm driving at this time. I'm on the road and I know it's not safe, but I was driving and I was looking at my phone about this ancestry stuff. It's so weird because as I'm telling the story, I can feel my heart beating like it did almost 4 years ago. So I look and I click into this Curtis, this random guy that I've matched with And I click and look into what the match is, because right now it just says father's side. And when I click into it, I see that there's this large number and it says centimorgans. I have no idea what centimorgans are, but I say that to my sister and I say, I don't know what this means, but Google it. Let's see what it means. So I look up what centimorgans means, and it basically explains that each human has approximately 6,800 centimorgans. This is in your DNA. It also says there's approximately 3,400 centimorgans from each parent. I go back into Ancestry to look at how many centimorgans I share with this random man. Turns out I shared 3,459 centimorgans with this man. Ooh. Mind you, I'm still driving. So I'm on the phone with my sister. I'm looking at my phone, looking this shit up. And I come to the conclusion, oh my gosh, at 25, my dad may not be my dad. I say may because I'm still in denial and I have no idea what I just unlocked. So my heart starts racing and I start boo-hoo crying while I'm driving. My sister is yelling at me, pull over, pull over. I get to the parking lot of where I was staying for the night and I just lose it. I call my mom. She doesn't answer. I call my dad. He doesn't answer. I call my mom again. She doesn't answer. I call my dad. He answers. And I say, Dad, what is going on? And I'm crying and I can barely get anything out. And he says, you need to talk to your mom. I messaged my mom on Facebook and I said, why, excuse my language, but I said, why does this random nigga on my ancestry DNA, why do we share almost 3,500 centimorgans? I said, Dad's not my dad, is he? My mom's response to me was, I want to talk about this in person. I lost it. I was 25 at the time. I'm 29 now. I was 25 at the time. My parents had been married for 27 years. And at 25, I learned that my dad and I were not biologically related. My dad learned that information at the same time. And y'all would not believe me if I told you this was just the beginning of everything. Part 3.
Man, mama was out there being a hoe. God damn. It's a shame, boy. Imagine being married. Fellas, imagine being married to a woman and this whole time you thought that was your baby. God damn, make you want to choke her ass out type shit, wouldn't it?
Part 4 of how I ruined my life. So I was obviously very devastated because the man that I knew as my dad for 25 years wasn't my dad. And my mom, first of all, my parents are these very upholding Christian values people, Black folk, Baptist, Pentecostal. They're that type, okay? They preach the Bible like crazy. So imagine my surprise to find that this was my mom's most hidden secret, right? And this came way out of left field. At that point, that night, the night that I found out, May 16th, 2021, I got on the phone with my siblings that I was raised with, and I let them know what I found out. And nobody knew a thing. The only person that knew about this whole thing was my mom. And yes, she was prepared to take it to her grave. So it got to a point where I was numb for the first day. And once it finally hit me at the end of that day, I was devastated. And to the point where I just couldn't work the remainder of the week, which I guess is where my drinking problem started. Of course, it wasn't my intention to develop a drinking problem, but I just needed to numb the pain some way, somehow, because I was literally having an identity crisis, just being honest. I finally come to a point where I can meet with my dad who raised me and my mom and ask them how this happened. Because again, I was 25 and they were married 27 years. So I learned that during my conception, my parents were actually separated at the time, and they were separated because my mom cheated. My mom obviously had a problem. So she, I guess, dated my biological father for a little over half a year, got pregnant, and then ghosted him and went back to my dad. And so when I finally asked my mom to explain this whole thing, she paints the picture as if my biological father either manipulated her or assaulted her.
Wow. You were being a hoe. She was being a hoe. Like, don't paint no other picture than I was hoeing. And I cheated on my husband. They tripped me out with that bullshit.
So not only am I devastated by the fact that my dad's not my dad, I have this sick image in my mind that my biological father could be a rapist, which is 100% not true, because I learned after she painted that picture that they actually dated. I didn't
We
know
know
that
it ain't
before.
true. Your mama
Imagine
was a
the
hoe.
psychological gymnastics that I was going through. My mom comes to stay with me for a little bit, and then she goes up to Atlanta to stay with some family. Well, I had gotten in contact with my biological father by this time, and so we're conversing back and forth, getting to know each other. And one day, he tells me that he's been in contact with Karen, my mom. This is a surprise to me because I don't know that she's talking to Curtis. I'm just now getting in contact with Curtis, so I don't know that she's in contact with him. And my dad, who was hurt by this news, dang sure don't know. So one day my dad and I are on the phone talking. My dad, my sister, and I were talking, and he asked me something about her and Curtis. Like, he's just talking about it, and he asked me legit if I know anything about them. And I'm not one to innately lie, but I'm still getting through some stuff. Like, I'm trying to get through stuff. So I don't know what to say. So I contact my mom and I ask her, like, hey, does dad know that you're talking to Curtis? And she says, well, no. You're the one who's saying that you want to fight for your marriage? And you're not going to tell him that you're talking to your ex? Oh, okay. Eventually it gets to a point where I tell my mom she needs to tell my dad that she's talking to my biological father because this is secrecy. It's not right. Y'all, tell me why this lady tells my dad that I connected them, and I guess I started their communication. She blamed it on me. I'm just like, oh my God, I can't get a freaking break for real. So my dad ends up telling me that she blamed it on me. I got off the phone with him and I called her up. And yes, I had a few choice words for my mother. My mom's the type of person, even if she commits the act, she's still the victim. Remember that. So the remainder of 2021 is us just falling apart as a family. No more celebrations, no more holidays, nothing like that. But in the beginning of 2022, I had a beautiful distraction. That's when I met my now fiance, Angie. Angie and I started dating in April of 2023. And I, of course, let my family know that I was getting very serious with this girl. To which my dad replied, okay, you can be gay, but just keep that away from me. And my mom said, well, you know what the Bible says about that, right? The nerve of her, right? Anyway, Angie and I, we start dating. We get very serious, so serious that we move into a house at the end of 2022. And in January of 2023, we invite both sides to the house, my family and her family to the house, for them to meet each other. January 1st, 2023 is the date that my family and her family met. And it's also the date that my dad, who raised me, started dating her mom. Part 5 of how I ruined my life.
Yo, the dad start dating her girlfriend's mom. I see you, pops.
So, of course, once I found out that they were dating, I was not too thrilled about that. So, I told my dad straight up, I'm not going for that, and I don't think they should be dating. To which my dad responds, well, I'm the parent, I can do what I want. And I was adamant about the conflict of interest, right, and the potential risks that came with him dating his daughter's girlfriend's mom. But of course, he didn't care. But he did care about having positive opinions. So he calls a family meeting
Is it the biological dad doing it or the other dad doing it? Either way it go, I don't see nothing wrong with it. Shit.
one night, and it involves me, my sister, my girlfriend at the time, her mom, and my dad. And my dad straight up calls me out and says, hey, so I hear you have a problem with our relationship. Something I spoke to him directly about, he decided to out my opinion for everybody to hear. Not a problem. I can hold my own. So I explain, yeah, I do have a problem with this. I don't think it's right. I'm not the only one at the time. I wasn't the only one that felt that way, but I was the only one who voiced it. So that caused a ripple in a few relationships. So for me to keep the peace and honestly the little bit of sanity I had left, I decided to just keep my opinions to myself. Of course, that came at a price. So my dad and her mom met January 1st, 2023. During this time, I'm still trying to form a relationship with Curtis, right, my biological father, and maybe heal a relationship with my mom, because at this point it's completely broken, especially with the fact that now my dad is dating my girlfriend's mom. To my mom, it looks like I set them up, which couldn't be further from the truth, but once you have an idea in your head, that's just what you have. So I'm graduating May of 2023, and I really want my biological father and my siblings on his side to be there. At this point, we have gone through so much to where to me, it's worth it for them to be there. And plus, nobody should really have any bad blood towards one another. If anything, I'm upset with my mom, but nobody else should really feel any type of way, you know? But leave it to my dad, who raised me, to have a problem. At this time, my parents are battling in court over the divorce, and my dad makes a deal with me. So the deal was, if I write like a draft or something to help him out in his divorce, that he will be cool with me inviting my biological father. Saying it out loud now just sounds so crazy, especially since it was my graduation and I have a right to invite whoever I want, but that was the deal. And apparently my biological father, he just didn't want any bad blood. Like, he did not want to come if that meant he was going to get into a fight with the dad who raised me. I don't know why my dad felt so strongly or feels so strongly against that man. I have no idea why, but because it's not like it's Curtis's fault. You know, he didn't know about me either, but my dad had some strong feelings. So that was the deal. If I write something for the courts to help him out and to be on his side of the divorce, he would not have a problem with me inviting my biological side. So I upheld my side of the deal. So I wrote a document helping my father out in court, and my father, the dad who raised me, did not hold up his side of the deal. So my biological father did not come to my graduation. Not
Ooh, her dad. So her dad is the one that's dating the mom. My boy, I don't know. He's salty, boy. My boy salty. He should have let that girl dad come. I mean, he's. I can see how it is though. He like shit. That nigga took my bitch type shit. I feel him. I don't know, but he should have. This the girl dad. You know. I don't know. That's a sticky one. What y'all think?
Not only did my biological father not come, but my grandma didn't come either. But that's another story. Essentially, it has everything to do with
Shit. If it was me, I'd fuck around, not go to that motherfucker if I was the dad and not the biological dad. Shit, you ain't my daughter. Fuck that shit. Ha.
which side I chose. Which, again, I guess it looked like I set them up and it looked like I did this and that, but you can't believe everything you see. So I celebrated my graduation with my dad, Angie's mom, my sisters on my papa side, who is Curtis, on Curtis's side, and my siblings that I was raised with, and some friends. Fast forward to October of 2023, when things are really heating up and my parents finally get their divorce. So my parents were married 30 years by the time they got a divorce. From the moment they found out, or we all found out, May of 2021 to October 2023, they were still legally married. They were just separated. Well, they finally get a divorce, and less than a month later, my dad and my girlfriend's mom end up marrying each other. Needless to say, my mom and my relationship is fragmented, for sure. And this is how my girlfriend at the time, now fiance, became my stepsister. Part 6 of how I ruined my life. So November.
Wait a minute. That's not her stepsister, is it? Because, like, that's not your real dad. So that's not your stepsister. To me, like, that's not her real dad. Now, if her biological dad did it, then yeah, that's the stepsister.
November 5th, 2023, my fiance and I became stepsisters. And remember when I told you that my mom has that mentality? So my mom ends up finding out that my dad married my fiance's mother and is understandably frustrated. I may have forgotten to mention this, but on January 1st, 2023, when we invited both sides of our family to our house for brunch, so my mom and my fiance's mom actually met. So I can understand the frustration. They even took a picture together. Yeah, my fiance's mom took a selfie with my mom, who was married to my dad at the time. Anyway, my mom finds out that they're married, and she has some choice words. But those words aren't for me to hear. They're for her just to vent. And she's dragging my name. How do I know that? Because my mom ends up sending the text message where she was dragging my name. She ends up sending that to me by mistake. She was supposed to send that to her best friend. So imagine taking an ancestry DNA test, because that's all you did, and you all of a sudden are catapulted into this dynamic of what the fuck, really, and you're blamed for everything, from taking the ancestry DNA test where you overstepped, from setting up your parents, which you absolutely did not do. You had no intention on them actually getting together, and then now they're getting married. Anyway, so the wedding happens, and then there's a reception after the wedding, and my sister was in charge of making the wedding cake. Well, she had a lot going on that day, so she could not make that cake anymore. And she let our dad know that she could not make that cake. My dad knew, and he was like, okay, it's cool, no problem. This would be the start of her and I getting into it. Fast forward to December 2023, I start having disagreements with my dad and my new stepmother because my sister did not make the cake for their wedding, which happened just a month prior. Christmas was a shit show, so after Christmas we have yet another family meeting. During that family meeting, people want to get off their chest how they feel about my sister not making the cake. It turns into me and my new stepmother yelling at each other. She's yelling at me about my sister's behavior, and I'm yelling at her, telling her this has nothing to do with me, take it up with her. Eventually it gets to a point where I outline the fact that you are simply my mother-in-law. I don't look at you as a stepmother. You are my mother-in-law. You are married to my dad, but that's separate. That is what it is. We stopped talking for a few months, and we're into 2024 now, and Easter comes. And I'm not talking to my dad. Consequently, I'm not talking to my new stepmother. I still have a fragmented relationship with my mom. So I decided to pay my biological father a visit. So I spent Easter with my siblings on my papa's side, and I spent Easter with my papa. And I had the best time. It was really cool. I met my nieces and everything. It was so cool. But I did not tell anybody that I was raised with or who raised me. I did not tell them my intentions. So they found out on Facebook. Next thing you know, I have people contacting me, asking me what's wrong in my head. As if a grown woman can't make her own decisions on who she wants to spend a holiday with. And again, I say, can you imagine the psychological gymnastics that I'm dealing with on the regular basis now? And it's going on 3 years at this point in 2024. But I get through that, and I decide that I want to ask my girlfriend at the time, fiance now, to marry me. It's gonna be super romantic. And I mean, people are flying in for this. I've told my people, I've made sure to tell them, don't say a word. Like, this is super secret. And everybody's like, okay, cool, cool. Little did I know that Angie was planning a proposal for me as well. So one day, Angie meets up with my sister and her mom, my stepmother, and tells them about the plans that she has to propose to me. Around this time, I am with my biological papa's side. It's late at night, and my sister calls me one night, drunk, and tells me that my girlfriend is planning to propose to me. Why anyone would open their mouth about something like that, I have no idea. The next day, I head back home to Florida, and I am understandably irritated at the fact that now my girlfriend's proposal to me is spoiled, and now I don't get that moment, right? So I get home where Angie is with her mom, and I am trying to communicate with her that I found something out that I'm really not happy to find out. Before I can even open my mouth, my stepmother tells me, oh yeah, Angie's planning to propose to you for her birthday. I'm so irritated, and I feel like I just need to get this out. I'm so irritated at this fact, and I'm venting, and I vent to somebody who I thought was my friend. That person literally went behind my back, contacted my girlfriend at the time, and told her that her proposal plans were spoiled. And I know if I would have just never vented, that would not have happened. But I can't help but think that if this dynamic wasn't what it was, that wouldn't have happened either. Because Angie literally confided in them about her proposal plans, and consequently, I didn't get what was coming for me. And again, I tie this all the way back to me taking that stupid ancestry DNA test. Because if I never took that test, my parents would have never divorced. My dad would have never married my fiance's mom. And there would never be this whole stepmom, stepdad, in-law, biological father. There would never be any of it. Fast forward to the weekend of my birthday, I decided to just propose to Angie right then and there, because at this point, both of our plans were uncovered.
But you wouldn't know that you wouldn't know your biological father either. So that's just the flip side of the coin.
And the final part of how I ruined my life. I proposed to Angie on the weekend of my birthday in 2024, and it was a really nice weekend. After the proposal, Angie and I are pretty much trying to navigate our lives while still balancing whatever family dynamic has been created for us. From September to November, we go through a transition where we actually move out of Florida up into Atlanta. My stepmother and I start getting into it for a few things. And this was the final thing that happened. I spoke to my dad one day, and I told him straight up, I do not want to be a part of this family dynamic. I do not want a stepmom. I simply want a mother-in-law and I don't want those lines to blur. I already have a mom. He reassures me that that conversation would stay between him and I until I was ready to speak to my stepmom. Well, less than a week later, he calls us and says that there needs to be a family meeting. Once again, we all get on the phone. Well, it's just me, my fiance, my dad who raised me, and my fiance's mom on the phone. Of course, what I confided in my dad about, somehow my stepmom found out about it. But instead of understanding where I was coming from, she was offended by my remarks. Came a point in the conversation where I was talking to my dad and I told him, I don't know if you had a choice in being my father, but I did not have a choice in being your daughter. The reason I say that is because he told me once before that he had speculation about me being his biological child, but he never once tested me. To which the response that I got, not from my dad, but from my stepmom was, and I quote, say you didn't have a choice, you absolutely had a choice. Once you found out about your biological father, you could have went with him and never talked to your dad again, but you chose to stay in this scenario. That stung when she said that to me. I thought about what she said to me. I thought about that for a week straight, and that really did hurt. But she wasn't wrong. All this time, I was trying to navigate the dynamics of every aspect of this family where I could have simply just checked out. So I did. And at this point, I told my dad, I can no longer look at you as my dad. I can only look at you as an in-law. And from that moment, I have not spoken to my dad, and I have no intention on speaking to him. And as far as I'm concerned, it seems like he was just trying to get out of, maybe not bothering somebody that wasn't his, because he did not object at all to what she said. And from my decision to unsubscribe from that family dynamic, I started a new life. And that's the story about how I ruined my life. Now, a couple things. I am so sorry, y'all. I know I speak slowly, okay? I know I took a minute to get to the point. Thanks for sticking with me. I'm not gonna lie, I left a lot out of the story because I told certain people that I wouldn't speak on them anymore on here, but that's the gist of it.
All right, we got the gist of it. Now I ain't raised no children, but shit. She said her dad didn't object to it, cause shit, he probably feel like shit, nigga, you ain't my child, no way. Um, that's what I think. I think he's a little bitter about the situation to even find out that that's not his daughter. But the nigga say he has suspicions. Nigga, if you got suspicions on somebody really being your child, I'm telling shit, boy, you better check. Shit, you've been unstuck. You're raising a child that ain't yours like you did this whole time. Meanwhile, your fucking wife's a hoe. You feel me? Like, this ain't all started because of you, baby girl. This all started because your mom cheated or whatever the fuck, even if they was on a break and she was married and she fucked another nigga. That's what this story is about. This story ain't about no fucking ancestry, none of that shit. And look, I don't think nothing wrong with the dad dating the what you call it. That ain't your real dad anyway. Fuck it. Even though, yeah, that's not your real dad anyway. That's not shit to you. Like, you feel me? Like, if it was your biological dad, I feel it. But I guess she like, damn, this nigga raised me. Like, it's different because the nigga raised her. So I don't know. You feel me? I ain't in that position. She probably still look at the nigga like, damn, that's my dad. Or maybe I'm just a nigga and don't look at it like that. Like, nigga, that's not your dad. You feel me? Like, you know what I'm saying? So, I appreciate you for tuning in and rocking with me, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this situation. But that's crazy. All because of an ancestry check. Holy. But I'm glad she found out though. If she wanted to find out, if she glad that she found out, I'm glad about the shit too. If she not, fuck it. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and rock with me, man. It's your boy Ray. Big play. Peace.